Good morning to everyone. My name is Caterina Giusti. I'm a professor of statistics at the Department of Economics and Management of the University of Pisa, and I'm one of the members of the EMOS team at the University of Pisa that is organizing this workshop and other activities for EMOS on behalf of Eurostat. It's my pleasure today to walk you through the 7th EMOS workshop, introducing to you the session chairs and moderators. As you have seen from the program, this morning we have 3 sessions, an EMOS talk, then an EMOS graduate session with the 4 EMOS graduates, and then a roundtable on employability of EMOS students. And then we will, after the lunch break, we will have a keynote speech. Registered participants have already received the direct YouTube link also for the afternoon session, but please remember that the links are also available on the dedicated website that I will now specify in the chat. So if you miss the link in any moment, please just go back on this page where you can find the link for the morning and afternoon session. I take the occasion to mention that the registration to this workshop on Eventbrite is still open, so I kindly ask you, to those of you that didn't yet register, to do that right now. This is important for us as a way to keep in contact with you, also for our future EMOS initiatives. So before we start, I would like to specify that as participant to on the EMOS YouTube channel, you can post your comments and questions on the live chat. To be able to do this, you need to log in YouTube using a Google account. Should you have any problems or technical questions, you can contact our team at the email address that is now specified in the chat. So that's our main contact if you need any clarification and any help from our side. This morning, I will also use the chat to launch a couple of polls to ask your opinion on some relevant aspect for the EMOS. And I would like actually to start right now with the first poll, in this case, a poll on who you are, if you are a producer of statistics or students or so on. So you can also try to use this tool now. So please, the link to the poll is in the chat. So I ask you to try to use this so we can also check that everything is working correctly. So in the meantime, it's now time to start with the pre-recorded welcome address by Professor Nicola Metteri, an international relations coordinator of the department of my department, the Department of Economics and Management of the University of Pisa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Nicola Metteri. I'm International Relations Coordinator at the Department of Economics and Management of the University of Pisa. Today, I'm very glad to give my personal welcome, as well as that of all our department, to all the participants to this EMOS workshop. The University of Pisa is one of the oldest universities all around the world, being founded in 1349, so around 700 years ago. You know, Galileo Galilei, who is universally considered as the father of modern science, first studied and then taught at this university. And the University of Pisa has been also successful in updating and maintaining its infrastructures and human resources to meet the new challenges of international research and education. Our department, the Department of Economics and Management, is one of the biggest departments of the University of Pisa, including around 80 professors and researchers and more than 6,000 students, both undergraduate and postgraduate level, basically coming from each region of our country, Italy, but also from many other countries all around Europe and all around the world. Especially in the last few years, our department has been strongly increasing its international activities, and the aim is twofold. On the one hand, we aim at increasing the number of visiting students and visiting scholars at our department. And on the other hand, we also aim at stimulating our professors and our students to live and study in international context. Our department's teaching offer now includes 2 degree programs completely taught in English, one at the bachelor level in management for business and economics, and one at the master level, our Master of Science in Economics. Moreover, we have a number of 1-year master programs, including courses held in English, and we've been also increasing the number of double degrees and joint agrees with university institutions all around the world. In this context, we are very pleased to be involved with our Master of Science in Economics in the EMOS network since its beginning in 2015. As I told you before, our Master of Science in Economics is an international program. It's a joint program with the Sant'Anna School of Advanced Studies, which is another important university and research institution in Italy, based here in Pisa. And our Master of Science in Economics is completely taught in English, providing for two different curricula. One curriculum in general economics and one curriculum in official statistics, which is the one obtained the EMOS level. Moreover, 2 years ago, we were very proud to begin a very fruitful cooperation with Eurostat concerning the provision of a number of EMOS webinars and learning materials, as well as the organization of this workshop. Obviously, we all who have strongly preferred to organize this workshop in presence here in Pisa, so to be able to meet and welcome you at our department. But as you know, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, this has not been possible. However, I'm sure that even if in this distance mode, this workshop will be a very nice event, and in particular, very fruitful and productive for research and professional activities of all the people involved in the workshop. So let me conclude this brief welcome speech by thanking you again and wishing you a nice workshop. Obviously, I really hope to host and meet you here in Pisa at our department as soon as possible. So thank you very much for your attention and have a nice workshop.
Okay, so now I give the floor to Professor Lorenzo Corsini, he's the director of the Master of Science in Economics, where we have the EMOS curricula.
Okay, welcome all. My name is Lorenzo Corsini. I am the director of the Master of Science in Economics. I would like to spend a few words about our master and about our activities that were obviously connected with the EMOS network. First of all, our master is focused on quantitative subject, basically, and it actually offers two different curricula. The first one is in general economics, and the second one is in official statistics. Of course, the one in official statistics is the one that is actually strictly connected with the EMOS network and with the EMOS label. In any case, both curricula and all our master is really focusing on quantitative subject, on quantitative topics, and on data analysis. So we are really happy to have this possibility to be part of a network, of EMOS network, because it basically strengthened one of the topics that we really invested the most. Let me tell you about two things that about which we are really happy related to the EMOS network. Well, the first one is actually we were one of the founding member of the EMOS network. It was back in 2015. I wasn't the director at the time, so someone else was good enough to build up and participate to this network. But it's been now a few years, and we have been really, really happy about the working of this network. We have been participating to several activities, but mostly we are glad that through time we observed an increase in the participation of students, in the numbers of students enrolled in the program, and also a very large number of increase in the students that would like to pursue an internship within the official statistics institutions. As a matter of fact, among the different activities that have been done in our master, one of the most successful have been specifically these internships. We mostly do it at the ISTAT, that is the Official Statistics Office in Italy, but in some cases we also were able to send some of our students in other institutions across Europe. If anything, this is something that we would like to develop a bit more, in the sense that really the convention, the partnership with ISTAT is really working well. So we'd like also to try to promote a bit of cooperation also with different institutions in different countries. Now, really, the number in this, from this point of view, are really significant. The students that do this internship are really good, and the things that they learn, I believe, are really useful. I want also to mention that we have also been able to build up a double degree within our master, within the official statistics curricula, and we have a double degree with the University of Trier. This is something also that is working quite well, and we have a partnership that is producing very good results. Now, let me close this very brief introduction, mentioning the fact that in the last probably a bit more than 1 year, we have been participating into the tender and to the build-up of this event, and we have been doing some other activities. Nicola, before me, was mentioning them. We had a very interesting series of webinars, and we are producing a set of learning materials that will be made available soon enough. All this was in the preparation of this workshop that I hope that I've seen the program is really interesting, and I hope it will also steer some consideration that could be helpful in still improving the working of the network and the activities that fall within our master. I don't want to steal any other time, so I leave the floor to the next speaker, or to Caterina, to organize it. So thanks again for participating, welcome all, and I hope that you really enjoy this workshop. Goodbye all, and welcome.
Thank you, Lorenzo. So I want to show you the results of our poll. I will say that nobody yet replied, but for the moment, producer of statistics seems to be the majority. But please, you can continue replying to the poll while we go on with the program, and I will update you on this. Okay, so now it's time for me to introduce the first session, and for this I have to give the floor to my colleague, Professor Monica Pratesi. She is Professor of Statistics at the Department of Economics Management of the University of Pisa. Monica has also many other appointments. I will just mention that she is a holder of the Jean Monnet Chair on Small Area Methods for Monitoring Poverty and Living Conditions in the EU, Director of the Tuscany Inter-University Center Camillo Dagum on Advanced Statistics for Equitable and Sustainable Development. She's President-elected of the International Association of Survey Statisticians. And last but not least for us, especially today, she is currently a member of the EMOS board. So Monica, the floor is now yours for the first session.
Okay, thank you, Caterina. Good morning to everybody. It's a pleasure to welcome you to the EMOS talk. Looking back, looking forward, data science and official statistics in the era of digital transformation. The topic is hot, as you know, and we have the opportunity to dialogue with two important experts. It's my pleasure to introduce the dialogue between Emanuele Baldacci and Ron Kenneth with the audience. Some questions will be initially posed by me to warm up the discussion, and then other questions will be collected from the audience and then posed to the expert. Let me say something on the bio of them. So Emanuele Baldacci is currently responsible for corporate operations and official statistics innovation in Eurostat, and in the past worked in the European Commission and other national and international public organizations on digital modernizations of public services, macroeconomic and social policy design and implementation, and in the private financial sector risk management. His second job is playing basketball, and I don't want to comment on this. It's up to him to add something if he wants. And this is from one side. From the other side, we have the pleasure to introduce you Ron Kenneth. Ron Kenneth is a research professor at the University of Taranto, Italy, and chairman of the KPA Group Israel. The KPA Group, he founded in 1994, is a leading Israeli firm focused on generating insights through analytics. He is a member of the Israel Statistics Council, which, by law, is overseeing the work of the Israel Central Bureau of Statistics. He likes smoking cigars and Puccini's operas and Modigliani's art, his hobbies. So, just let me, after this short introduction, to share my screen to show you what I have prepared for the warming up. I'm not sharing the screen, I don't know why.
Monica, I have your 3 questions in my first slide, if you want.
Okay. Can you see my screen now?
No.
No, not yet.
Yes.
Yes?
No. Yes, no. Wow. That's good.
It's not working.
Yeah, Monica, we can see the screen. Just go on the PowerPoint. Yeah, and presentation mode.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry about that. Very sorry, but you know, things happen. So these are the questions and the issues I have thought to share with you to warm up the discussion. So we are talking on the EMOS program and its ideal relations between official statistics and universities. Then we are talking about an evolution, and we are asking ourselves if the program, the EMOS project, is following this evolution. It is about digital transformation to understand if it revealed deficiency or opportunities in statistics or official statistics and in the EMOS. It is about data science and about universities. And our question is, are universities and EMOS network accompanying, preceding this evolution of statistical thinking and culture? So now, that's all for now from my side, and the floor is to Emanuele to start the EMOS talk. Please, Emanuele.
Thank you, Monica. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be on this panel, and I'm pretty sure that Ron's second job he's much more effective than I am in my second job. So his smoking cigar is much better than my basketball playing. But on your questions, what I would like to do in the next 10 minutes or so is to touch on a couple of areas that I believe have a bearing on what you're asking, and then I will be really listening also to the insightful words of Ron. So let me first touch on what I think are changes in the official statistics ecosystem that will have an impact on the future of this partnership called EMOS. I want then to touch or say a few things about a potential skills agenda for our system, and then go back to the original mission on EMOS and conclude with a couple of reflections on the way I see the future. So we live in changing times. Monica, you say that already in your introduction, and the last few months have even emphasized the need for better data, more timely information, more harmonized statistics, particularly when lives are at stake and the decisions have to be made on the basis of the best evidence. It's very clear that, let's say, statistics is a public infrastructure that serves public purposes. So in that sense, the last 2 years have just accelerated a process of change that is a much more long-standing trend. And the way I look at it, it's at let's say, is that all stages of the typical production of statistics are affected by these quite strong and dramatic changes. If you think of a stylized statistical production process, you start typically with the demand side, so collecting views from users, and that has, let's say, changed and will be changing quite dramatically. The emergence in the government sector of a discipline of user design means that we will go, and we are increasingly going beyond the traditional way of collecting needs and demands from different stakeholders. We are involving increasingly, and we should do even more so, the users in the design of statistical information services from the very early stage. I will come back to what this means in terms of skills in a minute, but bear with me as I go through the process. Then the next steps, once you have, let's say, defined what the demand side is, and also what kind of statistical information services are needed, is that you start collecting data. And this is a world that is changing again from a traditional questionnaire-based, survey-based system to a very wide use of administrative data, which is now becoming the norm, to use of other non-traditional sources of data, so-called big data or Internet of Things, which is just emerging right now. And that, again, has implications from the technology standpoint, because these data do not come, let's say, ready for statistics. So there is some work that needs to be done in terms of getting them aboard, translating them into information that is useful for official statistics, but also because we need to address the issue of the quality of data sources in a different way, given that we don't control the data generation process and we don't control the creation of the data sources. And that has implications for the type of work that we will need to do in statistics increasingly in the future. Then the center of our activities is the data processing part. So once you have your data board, you clean them up and you start processing them, you use the right methods to transform data into statistical information. This is where you are creating value added in economic terms. And here, the emergence of, let's say, new algorithms that are based on strong statistical foundations is very important. I see here a challenge in using the whole data science toolkit as an additional or supplementary set of instruments that would allow the statisticians to work properly. Here, there are several use cases already in our world where this has been happening. What I see as in need of continuous evolution is, on the one hand, the need to be completely transparent and accountable and avoid the black box, let's say, risk when using particularly very complex algorithms. And on the other side, to have increasingly frameworks, conceptual and technical frameworks to assess the quality of the algorithms. So what models are we using, whether these models are fit for purpose for the type of analysis or not. And this is a discipline in itself that is in evolution. Once, let's say, you come to the dissemination, in the past, it was perceived that the job of a statistical office was just to put numbers on the website, and that was the end of it. And now this is perceived as being just the beginning of a journey. This is when you start putting stories behind the figures. And again, this has implications for the type of competences that you need. Maybe you need not just good webmasters that can put, let's say, nice tables on your web. What you would need is communication experts that are able to translate data into insights, as Ron will tell us, and possibly explain through stories and visual stories what is behind the data, because in the end, our job is not to produce data, is to give answers to questions, and the questions are originating from the users at the beginning of the cycle. And then you go back to, let's say, the beginning of the circle, when you go back to the users and you ask whether you have done your job well. So again, this is a circular process where you would need to change and using instruments that are more sophisticated over time to assess the quality of what you're doing. So in this context where the different phases are not new, but the way you address these different tasks and phases in the complex world of statistical production are changing a lot, Obviously, you need competences, and you need competences of different types from what was originally the case in a typical statistical office. So here, the fine balance, I believe, and I will not go through the list of all the competences we need, but the fine balance is trying to find a good mix of hard and soft competences, in my view. While the hard competences are important, you need people who know statistics, you know people who know computer science, you know people who master all these different phases of the statistical process. At the same time, people, let's say our colleagues that are working in statistics are increasingly working in multidisciplinary teams, are increasingly working with users, with the owners or holders of data. So you would need to have, let's say, a larger number of competences, from communication to engagement capabilities, to be able to have a dialogue, for example, with the owners of platforms that could become a source of statistical information or data for the production of statistical information. You need good communicators to transform data into stories. You need, obviously, people who can have thematic competences in the domain of environment, economics, and social. And you need people who are able to work together, because that's another fundamental shift that I see happening in our organizations. People are increasingly working more and more in teams, interconnected. They use much more co-creation. And these are skills that are harder to teach unless you do them by, let's say, on-the-job type of training and doing a lot of practice. Which brings me to the third point, that you will need more and more people who are able, even conceptually, to think experimentation. So think experimental, accelerate innovation, but also don't be trapped in the ivory tower of, let's say, experimenting forever and being able to translate experimentation into ready for production statistical products. So these abilities are not to be found in a manual. They are things that are built over time by a combination of things. So going back now to EMOS, and then I will conclude with a few thoughts. EMOS is doing a great job, I believe, in trying to help advance on and accompany the statistical system in this transformation, producing, let's say, a very good offer of content and training and learning for students who want to be part of this broad transformation of the public sector in the domain of statistics. And I believe that the original objectives that have been set at the beginning of this program remain still valid. We want to harmonize as much as possible at European level the content of the learning experience. We want to offer the best, let's say, best possible tools and experiences to students who want to approach official statistics. But at the same time, we also want to solicit an approach that is research-oriented and create a community of peers, including through student exchange and possibly also teachers' exchanges in the future, creating this network of, let's say, stakeholders that are interested in the transformation of statistics. So the easiest thing to say in the context of the way forward is that we need to build on the successes and we need to build on the good things that we have done, but also zoom forward and try to be prepared for, let's say, the big challenges that are coming with this overarching transformation of statistical production. And for me, this means reaching a new maturity level, moving to a next level where, let's say, we need to reflect on the effectiveness of our work and what else we will need to put in the pipeline to make sure that we are offering capabilities to different type of learners, students, but also perhaps people who are already working in public and private organizations, and perhaps not focusing purely on the production of statistics, but taking a more holistic view of the use of statistics. So targeting not just individuals who would be working in statistical offices, but also more broadly, let's say, a civil servant, for example, as data are becoming increasingly more important in national data strategies. And why not private sector, as the private sector is becoming increasingly a partner of statistical organizations in the production of statistics. So let me stop here, Monica, and I will be definitely listening to what Ron has to say and also to the questions from the audience. Thanks.
Many thanks, Emanuele. And now the floor is directly to Ron for your reflections, hints on the subjects. Please.
So, Emanuele, I was last week in a conference on sports analytics, and I think your excellent comments, most of them would have applied there as well. I can hear you give this almost the same talk in that conference. Okay, so I'm now trying, Monica, I'm trying to do what you were doing before.
Okay, so good luck.
Oh gosh. Okay, I will follow the advice. So here we go. You see the slides?
Yeah.
Okay. So I will be less organized than Emanuele. I'm putting together some response.
Could you try to cancel the button you have? Okay, closing it.
This?
Okay, great.
Yeah. So I'm less organized than Emanuele. I put some ideas, some response to 3 of the questions that were posed. And the goal is to encourage discussion. I hope there will be some questions and an opportunity to address the questions. So first, I picked up 3 of the points. One is the role of and the evolution of official statistics, and what EMOS is doing in terms of educating workers in this area. So the overriding theme that I'm going to talk about briefly is the transition from numbers or data to information. So this is a non-trivial transition. Emanuele mentioned that, and I will give a structure, a framework for that. The digital transformation is posing very technical questions on, how do you deal with big data? The p-value when you have 3 million observations is not necessarily meaning anything. And the role of data science, I will talk about in the context of what we mention as the real work of data science. And this is something that universities should be involved with, and probably a good place for that Department of Economics or Management, because the people in computer science are not focused, in my mind, on the real work of data science. They are focused on algorithmic aspects. So I have a few slides, bear with me. I have a longer presentation that could be distributed, so this is a subset. A few years ago, I was quoting this. This is a 2012 paper, which was mentioning, where is official statistics going? And the point was that official statistics needs to be used to be useful. That's a new concept. And that the other aspect quoted from that paper is that the language used in official statistics probably has a different meaning than what most people understand. So these are 2 significant changes. One is to accept that there is a language gap, and 2, to adopt as a goal the use of the product from official statistics, and not just, Emanuele mentioned that, not just the fact that it's there, but also how it's used. So these 2 things involve a big change. And in that paper, what they say is that you have to define the objectives from the framework. So what people are doing with this is becoming in the interest of the producers of official statistics. This was not obvious. I remember a lot of discussions on who are the users, what do they need it for, and the people in the Central Bureau of Statistics I was working with did not have a good answer to that. So if we are in this business of use and information, I want to mention a framework that we developed about 10 years ago called information quality, which is looking at the potential of a particular data set to achieve a particular goal. So now we have a goal using a given method of analysis. The idea is to move from numbers to insights and information. To do that, obviously, you need to specify the goal. You need to map the available data. You need to disclose the methods that you work and what is the utility measure that you're going to use. In that context, the utility of applying F to X condition on the goal is what you are after. We used what is called deconstruction. This is an idea of David Hand. This is all in our book on information quality. The deconstruction of this concept led us to 8 dimensions: data resolution, data structure, data integration, or data fusion sometimes, chronology of data and goal, generalizability, 8 dimensions. And I contrast these to the dimensions that you find in the official statistics quality standards. So they are not too different, but I think they can be operationalized in a more focused way. Basically, if you ask people what is big data, you know, big data, the new oil. People talk about data as the new oil. The answer is, oh, big data, that's variety, volume, veracity, and velocity, the 4 V's. What we are talking about is to have these 8 dimensions as something with some lower resolution that can also be acted on. From a historical perspective, what we see is that we move from product quality, which was based on inspection, to process quality, where control charts were used, to service quality, management quality, design quality, and information quality. So if we look at official statistics 4.0, it is playing in the field of information quality. And that's why we need a framework for information quality. An example is something that I find occurring quite a lot. You know, people like these radar plots. And I want to make a case against radar plots. Radar plots are showing different dimensions. But if you take the multivariate dimension perspective, you can see that moving from the blue dot to the yellow dot, or from the green dot to the yellow dot, depends on the multivariate shape that is not shown in the radar plot. So radar plot assume independence in the dimensions, and they can actually be very misleading. So this is one type of discussion that needs to be brought in to people who communicate official statistics. They need to communicate also the multivariate structure in the data. If they want to do that, they should learn about Bayesian networks, for example, where you have graphical approaches to describe links between variables. And in that paper, we are providing some example of that. So if you take well-being indicators, they are all presented here with run charts, and you look at them in a Bayesian network context. Okay, what you can start doing now is some scripting of scenarios. You know, what happens if this goes up? What happens if this goes down? And you can show to decision makers what's the impact of their decisions. So these are multivariate skills, multivariate analysis skills that I think should play a part in the education of people working on official statistics. This was another paper with Luciana Dalla Valle on integrating data from different sources. So one is coming from a survey, the other one is coming from an internet-based data. How do you calibrate this? These are techniques that also need to be considered. The real work of data science is really how to turn numbers into information. And in these brief comments, my main point is that official statistics 4.0 is about information quality. And I guess I finished early.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's all from your side?
Yes. Am I out of the share screen? Stop screen. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So thank you very much. So it's time for having questions from the audience, if any. Otherwise, my suggestion is that you are free, Emanuele, to comment on what Ron proposed to us, and Ron to comment again on what Emanuele said. Waiting for some questions from the audience. Please.
Thank you, Monica, and thanks, Ron, for stimulating thoughts and ideas. I want to pick up on one element because you were stressing this so much, and that's the inherent complexity of transforming the raw materials of our work, the data, into added value statistical information. And that in this process, there are several steps that require both the technical control, but also the quality aspects that you have identified in the 8 dimensions that you have put forward. And here again, if I want to link it to the type of discussions that we are having in terms of how do we train statisticians so that they are able to function well in this complex world, I believe that, again, this calls for quite a blend of different skills and perhaps a less homogeneous approach to statistical competences than we had in the past. In other words, there is definitely a technical element in all the dimensions. For example, take data fusion. It's typically done with models. It's typically done through standards of data interoperability. So there is a technical or statistical methodological component. But at the same time, there is also a process control element, which comes more from managerial disciplines and was not so much, let's say, in the radar screen of traditional statistical courses. So here the reflection or the question is, how can we equip our colleagues and ourselves and our teams so that this engineering dimension, the statistical dimension, and the communication dimension all go together in, let's say, blending the mix of competences that is required.
So I used to run a survey in forums of statisticians. And the question was, how many of you know about ETL? And in a group of 50 people, maybe one person raised their hand. If you ask that to people in information systems, everybody knows what ETL is. ETL is something I actually discovered through a European project with the computer science group in the University of Pisa. And they taught me what ETL was. So if I had not had this project and these people from Pisa had not brought up Pentaho and all the techniques used in ETL, I'm a statistician for many years. I never heard about ETL. So that's why I started doing this. So I'm thinking of this a bit different from what you suggest. I think this is where statistics should evolve. I don't think it's an issue of work. Collaboration is critical. I don't have any objection about collaboration, but I think this is the role of statisticians. I think statisticians who are very much involved in data fusion. Whatever you do, you're going to be involved in data fusion. they should learn about data fusion. So I don't think they should rely on what others do. They should be an expert on data fusion. It should be considered as an evolution of statistics. So for me, I think there is in this opportunity of data science also an opportunity for statistics to grow and evolve. This is the message I'm trying to put forward.
Yeah. So I agree with you both. And I have seen that there are other questions from the audience, just to go into more details. If you want, I can read them for you. There are 3 questions, and then you decide how to answer to them. So the first one is from Anna Maria Bianchi, University of Bergamo. That is one of the EMOS network. So the pandemic has also been a driver for innovation, be it producing, teacher, or learning official statistics. What do you see as main lessons learned, and what would be the lasting future? Maybe we can stop a little bit on this one or proceed with the others. It's up to you. What do you prefer? Stop?
We can take it up right away, I would say, no? It's,
okay. Okay, so the others, another from Stefano Marchetti, that is from Pisa University, more specifically on the EMOS labeled program and graduates. What is your vision for EMOS labeled programs and graduates? And then another one that is by Antonio Ughi. Thank you for the presentation. In your view, how could universities and statistical producers help EMOS graduates to have access to employment? And this is an issue we will discuss later also, but this is an issue. Okay, I think that we can go on with these 3. Who's the first? Emanuele, would you like?
Yes, okay. I'll go first, and thanks a lot for this very important question. So I will not give justice to the deepness to the depth of the questions, and just provide flash answers. So lessons learned from the crisis. I think that if I want to use a slogan, we need to be quick, and we need to shorten the time to market. That's what we learned. That particularly when crises are the types of the ones that we just lived, the time metrics is in a matter of hours and days, not months. And we know that this has serious implications not only on the technological process, but also on the governance and the decision process. Typically, we are let's say, before deciding about a new statistical product in Europe, it takes several steps, it takes legal frameworks. So we experienced that we didn't have time for all this, and we went through much faster releases of new statistical products like the recovery dashboard, for example, or statistics on the business demography, or statistics on mortality, which in Europe were delivered much faster. And that means that, let's say, we were using estimates, we were using models, we were trying to fill the gaps in the best possible ways, but still a documented way. I think this is a lesson. It will become the new normal. More and more, we will be using this as, let's say, the normal, and then having a complete set of information and doing the accounting on the basis of the complete set of information, if it was ever the case, will become the exception to the rule. On the other 2 questions, I guess, Monica, you want us to answer all of them?
Oh, yep. Could be. I mean, we have time until 10:15. So
okay, so let me say briefly. I'll say briefly something on the other 2 as well, because these are very important. So one was on the vision for the future of EMOS, and the other one was to how to maximize its impact through job opportunities and employment opportunities. Again, this would deserve quite an elaborate discussion, but just to give you a sense of my own thinking on these points. For EMOS, I kind of mentioned that already. I believe that we need to go wider, first of all, so that we need to target more holistically the usage of statistics in different sectors: government, official statistics, private sector, and think about equipping, let's say, statisticians with good, sound official statistics knowledge in the sense of what Ron said. So modern official statistics, wherever they will be working, including in statistical offices, but also in other areas. And this is in the interest of national statistical authorities per se, because, for example, if you have more statistics savvy people in the government, the role of, let's say, coordinator of official statistics in the general government of a statistical office is facilitated by having champions of official statistics in the government departments that would understand, for example, issues related to the quality of data sources, to the need to curate the metadata of the administrative data. So that's an investment per se. On the job opportunities, obviously, again, it depends on the size of the market. So one answer is that if you target a much broader concept of where an official statistician or someone with an official statistics training could work in, you are also, let's say, expanding the market. In my view, again, the destination of someone who has been trained in EMOS should and could be in different sectors, not just in the national statistical offices, although national statistical offices remain, let's say, a key beneficiary of this. I think we need to strengthen the exchange programs that we have. It's a good initiative, and we want to, let's say, go forward with that. And we need to build more and more opportunities for students to get exposed to real-life work experiences in the statistics world, but also in the public administration. So that's, I believe, one area where we could be helping also in the placement services, so to say.
Okay, so let me spend a few words. We have plenty of questions, other 4 at least. So my suggestion is a quick and I would say complete reaction and answer by Ron to the previous 3, and then we go quickly on this set of 4 for your answers, and then I think that's time to close. So please, Ron.
Okay, so I'm going to use the framework I suggested, okay? The first point regarding COVID experience is what we call chronology of data and goal. Official statistics had out-of-date data for the use of stakeholders. So the chronology of data and goal was weak, was very poor. The CDC, I had a meeting with the CDC, they had death records 6 months old. Their data was 6 months old. Within 2 weeks, they were able to reduce the delay to 1 week. So they understood that from the perspective of chronology of data and goal, they were very poor, and they did a revolution, and they were able to produce data which was much more updated. The other aspect of COVID is generalization. We had data that was based on testing. The point was that on the data that you get from testing, you want to generalize to the population. If the testing is not designed properly, is not representative, is biased, you have poor generalizability. The numbers that you report are meaningless in terms of the population. So just an example of 2 dimensions that COVID-19 exposed as dimensions that official statistics needed to improve: chronology of data and goal and generalizability. In terms of employment, I participate in a program at Carlo Alberto in Turin on innovation in insurance. And I teach them the same topics we discussed now. So the people who go through this type of programs, who learn about data integration, who learn about combining different data sources, they are employable also in the insurance business, in banking, in other institutions. that also consider big data. So yes, official statistics is probably the primary employment goal, but if you just move a bit to the right or a bit to the left, I'm sure there are other employers who would appreciate this type of skills.
Okay, many thanks. So let us go on with the other questions. The first one is by Moiza Baftas, University of Ljubljana. Thanks for the great presentations. If we want to add new topics to curricula, we need to delay something. This is true. What would you delete or put less emphasis on? And this is the first question. Then there is another one from Maja Drakic, Montenegro University. So at the University UDG Montenegro, we have good cooperation of economic and IT department. ITs are becoming aware of the importance of statistics. That's a good news. Is this multidisciplinary approach the future of EMOS? Then please go on. Another question by Gaia Bertarelli, Sant'Anna School of Economics. Data scientists and official statisticians are at present seen as two different profiles. What are the commonalities, the differences? What would you like to keep them separated? Why? And then a continuation, or if merged, what would still distinguish a data scientist for official statistics from others? Okay, I think that's all for now. Please, the floor to Emanuele and then to Ron for the answers.
Quickly, as we don't have a lot of time. So data science and statisticians, yes, indeed, there are two separate profiles, but increasingly the labor market is considering them as one single block. And one time, I mean, sometimes I look at job offerings and they are asking for data scientists. In fact, they want statisticians or vice versa. So I would say that the market is moving in a direction where this is a continuum more than just to, let's say, different worlds. And I believe that this is the way we should be looking at it, not as individual professions, but as, let's say, sequence of competences that can be more tilted toward computer science, more tilted towards statistics, but you need both in a different combination depending on what you're doing in this particular moment of your life. That's my approach. And this is the way also EMOS should evolve. So yes, the multidisciplinary and blending, it's necessary also because statistical methods application in the new millennium will be increasingly helped by much more powerful computational capacity, including the use of high-power computers. That would maximize also the possibilities of new methods being made operational, because the computing power is the different and the far. And then the most difficult one, I will leave it to Ron, the dropping. What would you drop? I would not drop altogether anything. I would rebalance the weight that we give to the different topics, and for example, let's say not necessarily drop fundamental issues like how do you calculate national accounts or what are the, what you need to bring in the loop is more what are the new data sources, what are the new information streams that come for the preparation, for example, of national accounts, and how can you integrate them. So I understand this is not very helpful because it means doing more, but typically we are not very good at deprioritizing things. But perhaps Ron has better ideas.
Please, Ron.
So, Emanuele, I will follow the sequence that you use, and I will get to the first question last. So, I was in 2018 in Vancouver at the joint statistical meetings. This is the main event of statisticians, I guess, in the world. Mm. And before the president's address, they put 10 clips of young people who are members of the American Statistical Association, who for 2 minutes described what they do, how statistics is wonderful, blah, blah, blah. All of them had as a title, data scientist. Mm. So when I mentioned that to the president of ASA, he didn't even notice that. He then went back to look at it. He said, it's incredible. The American Statistical Association, as case studies, as promoting membership in ASA, are using people who have as a job the job of a data scientist. So Emanuele is 100% correct. These are not differences that the market is making. Maybe in academia people make the difference, but in real life people don't make the difference. In terms of what to drop, I can go through a curriculum and I can tell you what to drop. It's very easy. The parts that deal with asymptotics are not up to date, and I think we can drop the parts which deal with asymptotic properties of whatever. I don't think people need them. They don't need them to understand, and they don't need them to use. And that needs to be replaced. As Emanuele, we agree on everything, so it's not really a discussion on where is the opportunity with big data. What is the contrast between the classical statistics that build on the stochastics generating data and data science models which build on algorithmic properties that fit something to data? There is a different perspective, but in the data science perspective, you don't have any estimate of uncertainty. So this is a huge opportunity for statisticians to enter a field which is now very, very widely. So in official statistics, you need to say something about uncertainties. The people who develop deep neural networks with 1,525 layers, they usually have difficulties even understanding what you are asking them. So I think there's an opportunity for research, but there's also an opportunity for applications. So I think that the earth is moving. There is an earthquake. I don't think people understand that. I think there is an earthquake going on, and people who are going to be able to address this are going to be ahead of the pack. And you have to build on the old, not throw out the old, to build on the old, but you have to build towards the future.
That's what we are trying to do. And there is another last, I think the last question, and by Cosetta Sevrani, you see here. So how can EMOS help universities and statistics producers improve their curricula, especially for the most recently opened programs? So this is, I would say, a very good closing question to you. So trying to answer to the question, please have also the focus on what you consider priorities. So I would like to close this talk indicating priorities from your side, and then I can also say something on this uncertainty and asymptotic properties, because I think that old-fashioned statisticians are trying to kill us, all of us, but this is obviously just for joke. Okay, please. This time I will start from Ron and then to Emanuele for the last question.
Okay, so I read the question. I understand it a bit differently, and it's related to an earlier question. I think education is a traditionally ineffective process. There is a lot of waste in education. One of the things we did, I was professor at the University of New York, this was a few years ago, is to review the curriculum of courses and identify overlap. People learned regression 5 times. In course A, in course B, in course C, in course D. If you take out the regression part in course B, C, D, and E, you have 30 hours, just like that. So one of the things that education should do is upgrade itself to education 4.0 and to start considering education in as a serious thing. You have a budget, the time. You have to be effective in using the time, and I think this can be data driven, especially if you have Moodle platforms and you have the LIMS and the education analytics. You can see what people are doing, how much time they are spending. In other words, I think you can become more effective. We can become more effective in education too. So I don't think it's a matter of priority. It's a matter of efficiencies. That's my 2 cents.
Thanks. So I'll go next. I see 3 elements or 3 priorities, including on how to strengthen or help universities improve their curricula. First, if you think of EMOS is a European, Europe large effort. So the European dimension is very important. So harmonizing content and training materials, training capabilities across different universities in Europe, so that we give to European students the possibility of accessing to this learning journey. It's one of the objectives that is at the origin of EMOS and continues to be a priority for the future. We need to do more and better, but that objective is still very much valid. The second one is related to the whole modernization path. I think Ron explained it very well. I don't need to spend more time. The toolkit is different. We need to put in our suitcase more tools and different type of tools. We don't need to, let's say, throw out everything we have in our suitcase, but our suitcase will be probably a bit heavier and also hopefully more useful. So that is what I see that EMOS can do. Build the elements that, let's say, everybody will have in his or her suitcase. And then the third thing that is underdeveloped at the moment is the service element. So what kind of additional services, in addition to the pure teaching element or learning, can we provide? So job placement, peer-to-peer exchanges, building of networks that would maximize the opportunities for students to find eventually what they want and put them in touch with key actors. This is something that I believe we can do more and we can do better. And this is, I think, an element that would maximize also the impacts of the program. Thanks.
Okay, so we have, I think, a couple of minutes to conclude. And first of all, it's my pleasure to thank you a lot for this very fruitful discussion. I think that we have learned a lot, and we have material to think, materials on which we need to think. I learned many things, to be honest, but one is for me fundamental. So I have understood that we need a multidisciplinary approach, because only between hybridization with computer scientists and also subject matter experts and also experts in communications, we can do something that is valuable for educating our students, because university has this job to educate students. So if you want, there is 1 minute for saying goodbye. Please, Ron and Emanuele.
I have one comment on what Emanuele and what you said, actually. I think universities and EMOS probably also should take responsibility for lifelong learning. This means not the students who are now getting some kind of graduate certificate, but past students or people who are actually employed. They learned something 15 years ago. There is room to upskill their knowledge, and lifelong learning, I think, should be one of the university academic missions. You know, we have 3 missions in university, education of students, research, and serving the community. I think there should be a fourth one, which is lifelong learning. This is different from education of students, because lifelong learning is done differently than education of students. You know, the students, they do whatever you ask them to do because they want their certificate. If you take people who work, it's different. The way you address them, the way you provide them education is different. So my comment is that lifelong learning could be a way for EMOS to provide some support for people who are currently in the workforce.
Thank you. Emanuele.
Just a brief moment to say thank you. It was very useful discussion. We will continue also during the day, and this will all be part of our reflection on how to strengthen and maximize the potential of EMOS. So we're looking into the future with a lot of optimism that even more can be achieved, and let's say we need to do this together, obviously. Thanks.
So, okay, many thanks and a warm goodbye, and please go on because the program is continuing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you indeed to Ron, Emanuele, and to Monica for these very intelligent talks and also for the lively discussion. So before we go on with the program, so that we also wait that our students and everybody at the next session join us, I would like to update you about my pool. So now we have students that are the 35% of the audience, followed by producer of statistics, 29, and teachers, 29. So I imagine that maybe we have a little selection bias here. But in any case, I would like to take the occasion to send a new pool that will be open during the next session. And this is actually different. I mean, I ask you to reply to these questions. What are the most required skills for official statistics? So you can just reply many times. I suggest that you try to use just a single word each time that you reply. So we'll try to see if we get some word clouds that say something about what do you think on this. So the link to the pool is in the chat. And now I think we can go on with the next section. So it's my pleasure to introduce the two moderators of the next session, Adam Czernias and Peter Lutin. So Adam is Director for Research and Chief Economist at Political Insights and Head of the Institutional and Political Economics Unit at the Warsaw School of Economics. He co-founded the Rental Research Lab. He authored dozens of publications in the field of economic sociology, institutional economics, and on the variety of residence and capitalism. Peter works as an associate professor at Utrecht universities. He is senior researcher at Statistics Netherlands. He coordinates the EMOS program in Utrecht and does research on how to use smartphones to collect data for the production of official statistics. So Adam and Peter, I leave the floor to you for the next session.
Thank you, Katerina. I hope you can all hear me well. If not, leave a comment. You can also leave comments in YouTube, like in the previous session, when you have questions or suggestions or ideas to talk about. So this session is quite special. I've attended quite a few EMOS workshops, and often we talk about skills that EMOS graduates should have, or how EMOS programs should be developed, how they should look like, how the transition from the university to a job should be, all these kind of more administrative issues, but we rarely talk with actual students. And as EMOS is now quite mature in the sense that we have quite a few graduates already from different countries, we thought it was a good time to actually invite some graduate students to the EMOS workshop and talk in particular about how they experienced the program, what they think they learned from the program, or what they feel we should add to the EMOS programs. So with us today are 4 students from 4 different countries. They are Ines Carmus, Sarah Müller, Danilo Vikovic, and Dominique Krijs. I hope I pronounce all your names correctly. So they should be with us here. Here they come in. I hope you can all see us still on the screen. So before we dive into the more deeper issues of what you learned and what skills you missed, I think it's a good time to first have a round of introductions where everyone says something about yourself. So I'm quite interested to know who you are, where you're from, when you finished your EMOS program and where you did that, and what you do now for a living. So where you work, what's your day-to-day job, what are your tasks, all these kind of things. So we'll start with Sarah, if you're ready. So
Yes.
Sarah, please tell me a bit about yourself.
Okay, well, as you said, my name is Sarah. Thank you all for inviting me to this session. Well, I am from Spain, also from Germany, but I live here in Spain and I studied the EMOS program in the University Complutense of Madrid that I finished almost 1 year ago. And since I finished the EMOS program, I am working at OnTrack. It's a private company, a digital transportation company that uses technology and machine learning tools to optimize the transport sector by saving costs both for shippers and for carriers, and also reducing the CO2 emissions and accelerate the transition to sustainable transportation.
All right, thank you. And can you tell a bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis? So are you doing a lot of management work or more analysis work, or what are the kind of things you almost do on a daily basis?
Okay. Well, I'm not in a data department, but I'm working for the marketing department. So there we have like different tools and different things that I use on my daily basis. But I also use statistical programs that I learned during the EMOS program, such as SAS or SPSS. Mainly for doing like linear regression analysis or to find correlations between different variables, and for example, to do specific marketing campaigns. So that's what I would like highlight from it.
All right, we'll dive deeper into like the skills you learned in EMOS and maybe what you're missing or whatnot. But before we go deeper, I first want to go to the other people. So next up is Dominic. Dominic, can you also tell something about yourself?
Hi, yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Dominic and I'm from Munich, Germany, and I graduated the EMOS program about 1.5 years ago. And actually immediately after handing in my thesis, I started working as a PhD student afterwards. And right now I'm working at the university next to contributing to research, some closely associated with official statistics. I'm also involved in organizing and some of the teaching of the EMOS courses programs at the university. So hence I try to give back a little bit. I'm both involved in researching and in teaching, like it is common in Germany at a university. So I'm really employed but still do some of the teaching. I enjoyed a lot the EMOS program, so I'm very happy to provide some of the knowledge I could gather during my time and maybe pass it on.
All right, thank you. We'll now move to Ines.
Hello, everyone. First, thank you for having me here today. So I'm Ines Camus. I'm from France, and I'm a former student of the NSAI, so the National School for Statistics and Information Analysis. So I integrated this school as a civil servant, which is a particularity that we have in France. So I was recruited by the INSEE while entering the school, and I graduated in 2020. So after an internship I did at the Deutsche Bundesbank on secure multi-party and data anonymization. So nowadays I work at the INSEE as a national accountant. So I produce the balance sheet of financial institutions and of the national one.
All right, and then finally we go to Danilo.
Hello everyone, thank you for inviting me to participate at this workshop. It's a pleasure to be a part of the EMOS community. I want to say that I come from Podgorica, Montenegro. I started my EMOS studies also in Podgorica in the early start of 2017 and completed them at the fall of 2019. I was part of the first generation of EMOS students in Montenegro. Currently, I'm employed as a national consultant at UNDP on the project of analyzing data on poverty, social policies, and unemployment. Our goal is to create better policies which will target the most vulnerable people in Montenegro to decrease poverty and improve overall employment, especially among young people. My day-to-day tasks are related to gathering of official data, so secondary data, but also primary. It is related to the analysis and the interpretation of these data, but also the analysis of legal aspects as the core basis of the official statistics.
All right. Thanks everyone for these introductions. So I think we have a quite diverse set of jobs that you're working at. So the private sector, the government, official statistics. And I think that's quite representative of what the EMOS program so far have produced. Of course, this varies per country and per year. But generally, we do often see that a lot of people doing the EMOS program do not end up in official statistics, which is completely fine, of course. But this issue, I think, of skills and knowledge, what EMOS teaches and what you actually need in the program is something that we want to talk about in a bit more detail in this session. And Adam will now, I think, take over and cover the next topic.
Yes, thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter, for the introduction and for making everyone to speak about themselves. Now I'm here to a little bit squeeze out of you to know and your experience so that everyone can learn what you share about the insights of being in the EMOS program. So first of all, I would like to start, I think, with Ines. And the main question is, and I think I will have some follow-up questions to that, but still, the main question is, if you look into the past, what do you think, with this insight, what knowledge or skills, or maybe also building a network of connections that you obtained during the EMOS program are now especially useful? So if you could pinpoint those points in the EMOS program that you think, oh, great that I have learned that.
Yes, I would say that beyond the statistical theory, what the EMOS program gave me is a particular insight of the European dimension of official statistics. This is something that I really discovered in the program, and that is even more reinforced in my daily life. I discovered the interactions between official and national statistic providers. And for example, nowadays, my main work tool is as a national accountant is the ESA, so the European System of Accounts. And it's actually a document that sets the European benchmark in national accounting. So this reality that official statistics are actually European statistics is something that I discovered in the program, and I am glad to discover it before working actually on the field with it.
Okay, you were expecting to discover it when you went to the course, the EMOS course, you thought, oh, I would like to learn something about European statistics, or you just thinking, wow, EMOS is great, and then you have epiphany, wow, there is the ESA system, I can benefit out of it.
Well, actually, I was interested about it because I think that the legal framework is always interesting when you work on it. So it's interesting to know how statistics and official statistics are created, how they evolve. But I did not expect it to be as important, as significant in my daily life, since I do not work, for example, on European data. So at my level, I did not expect it to be this significant.
Okay, and as I understand, you use that knowledge about European system of accounts on a daily basis right now.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else? Maybe some statistical tools that you use as well, or not, or just meta information about how statistics are collected?
Well, for example, yes, for statistical methods, I would say that nowadays I use mainly, I would say, survival analysis, survival models, and of course, computing that is overwhelming nowadays in our data scientist / statistician daily life.
Okay, thank you for that. So now we'll come back to you and we'll have some more in detail questions, but I would like to engage also other alumni of the EMOS program. So now I would like to turn to Danilo. So if you could give us some insights about what was the skill that you have learned throughout the EMOS program that you find most beneficiary right now in your work?
Yeah, gladly. Well, first of all, it provided me with the opportunity to gather knowledge about international methodologies, about different approaches to official statistics from the United Nations, EU, but also large financial institutions such as IMF and World Bank Group. It helped me to understand the similarities and differences between these methodologies, how they interact, where is their overlap point, how do they combine data from different sources in order to create official statistics widely available for different stakeholders by disseminating it on a user-friendly way. One of the core things which I can count as advantage regarding the content of EMOS program, at least at the University of Donja Gorica, which facilitated EMOS program in Montenegro, is related to understanding all phases of statistical process. So first of all, it helped me understand the differences between official and non-official statistics, the varied importance of these types, but also to understand how collection, processing, dissemination, analysis are interrelated. Knowing how to make data helped appreciate their value and sparked ideas about uncountable ways of using them to enhance progress within my scope of work. Now, when I talk about concrete statistical tools, which I had the opportunity to learn during my master studies, I would mention R program, SQL, but also SPSS and eViews, and also opportunity to improve my knowledge about the various possibilities of using these programs from visualizing data to creating table representations of final results, etc. So coding for one thing, processing is another, analysis is a third skill, I would say. So I had the opportunities to test these skills through research projects, through consultations with experts in respective fields, but also through interaction with the different stakeholders which were partners in this program.
Okay. And have you used that connections to get your current job? Was it useful to have the knowledge who is the actor, who is playing? Maybe you can just tell us a little bit about the details, how you get your current job at the NDP.
Well, yes. Not for my current job, but for the previous. I also worked as a national consultant at the UNDP, on another project which was developed for the Statistical Office of Montenegro, and I had a pleasure to learn from professors which are also official statisticians in Montenegro. So as a part of this master program, I did an internship at the statistical office. So I created a network there already as a student. I didn't even complete my studies, and I applied for a job at UNDP. So I had great references which helped my application be successful. It was a great references as I studied about EU statistical methodologies, which are implemented on a national level by our statistical office. So in a way, I already knew my way around.
Okay, thank you for that insight. Sarah, let me turn to you right now. You are the one working in the private sector, as I understand, so it will be quite useful to hear from you. What was, for a private sector job, the main benefit of attending the EMOS course from a one-year perspective?
Okay. Well, in my experience during the EMOS program, I obtained several skills that benefited me for my current position, such as dealing with large data sets, also to get knowledge about different statistic tools that were used and how to transform this kind of data and make it visual and understandable for different stakeholders. Also, another thing that I liked a lot about this program and that gave me a big overview was the combination between social sciences and statistical methods. In the University Complutense that I did the course, they have like this kind of combination and having an overview about all the data sources from the different institutions in different countries. Helped me a lot to know where I can get this information to in a next step, how to use that data. But if I need to choose one thing from all the program, I will highlight the experience and the knowledge I acquired during my exchange semester in Helsinki, in the University of Helsinki in Finland. I was there like my last year of the program, and the good thing was, as it is a European program, the content of the courses, the tools that were used, and the quality of the courses was quite similar, although the structure of the lessons was slightly different. But thanks to that, I've been able to know other institutions and their data sources, also to present data in a different way to different people and different audiences, also to obtain feedback from other people with different backgrounds, and to know different ways and different situations of working. So I would say that's the thing that helped me to be more prepared for the labor market.
Okay, could you elaborate a little bit more about the connection between social sciences and statistics? What do you mean by that? Do you have learned how to obtain data in social surveys, for example, or more how people perceive the data or how to interpret the data? What is this connection about?
Mm-hmm. Well, during the course, we had like two kinds of the program was like divided in two parts. One more related to social sciences, or more related to economics, I would say. So more social, and also we studied like patterns of people. We saw different sources that we can use for obtaining different information, and then like another part on how to deal with that data and how to elaborate after that solutions and face the different problems that you can find. But it was not only related to statistics only, but also having the other part.
And one last follow-up question. Do you think that you would get the same knowledge in a non-EMOS program? So do you have the opportunity to get the same knowledge outside of EMOS, or was it just, to one thing, I have it there, nowhere else I can learn that?
I think it would have been very difficult to obtain that knowledge in another program, because before I decided to start this EMOS program, I was looking for different programs. I think everyone does that when they are trying to find the program that adapts better to their needs. And the difference that I saw and that I experienced with this course was not only about programming or how to use the different tools, but to having like real real scenarios that you can face in the labor market, and of course this course does not give you the solution for any problem, but I think it gives you the right tools and the necessary background to be able to face the different problems and be able to find the right way for solving them.
Okay, thank you. Now, last but not least, Dominic, the same question goes to you. What is your experience that you find most useful in the EMOS program?
So obviously, as I'm closely associated with the university, still there's a huge variety of things and skills and knowledges I can use. I would say I can use about the whole package, but if I have to focus on two, I would say the theoretical and research associated knowledges and skills are applied the most in my research. For example, modeling techniques or considering uncertainty and maybe complex kinds of uncertainty if you think about maybe set value data as well. So this is probably the skills I applied the most if you think about logistic regression or random forests or everything, modeling techniques that advance and that you learn during the EMOS program and can apply afterwards. That's probably the thing I benefited the most, but also the other thing I focus a lot on is data quality and generally the quality of data in official statistics, which is a very, very important point. It's not like a best guess, but it has to be really truthful and very thorough, the analysis of the data. So I would say I could list about every skills I obtained because I use at least part of it in different parts of the research, but I think modeling is the most important one for me.
Okay, random forests are my best name for a quantitative method ever. So thanks for mentioning that. However, I would like to turn a little bit your view to the soft skills that you obtain, because of course the knowledge, I understand that you use it quite heavily right now working at the university, and that's quite clear. But did you experience also some soft skills, or you learn some soft skills that you benefit from, or maybe you gather some social capital and you have plenty of people that you learned in the EMOS course that you have connections right now and you just write a walking paper or something like that? How about that part?
Yes, of course. And one very important thing of our EMOS program is interactive teaching and discussions. I enjoyed it a lot. That's only possible with others, but there was also a study visit in Luxembourg. I was very happy to join, and I got to know, for example, Heli, who we saw previously, and connect with different people, and some of which I'm actually in contact with still up to date. Not that closely, maybe over Twitter, or someone just joined the University of Trier, so I stayed in contact there a bit. And I like the community, actually. That's maybe even one point I would go into afterwards to improve, is the thing about going deeper in the connection and maybe making it possible to see as the EU is a whole of different countries and the connectivity. So thank you for the question.
Thank you for the answer. Would you choose EMOS for the second time, knowing what you have learned, the people you've learned? Would that be also your first choice right now?
Yes, it would be, definitely. I enjoyed studying it a lot. Actually, at the university, we have quite a broad curriculum, so you can choose a very broad type of courses. And it would also, I would always include the EMOS courses in that, not saying I would drop maybe something like a machine learning course, but I would always choose the EMOS course as the core, and but also focus on different aspects as well.
Okay. Thank you for going into that direction, because that's the direction Peter, I know, will be heading in a minute, and asking you a little bit more on that. So Peter, the floor is yours again. Take over.
All right, thank you. So in the meantime, there have been a couple of questions posted via YouTube. So thanks for those questions, and everyone on YouTube, you can ask questions in the comments, and we'll try to cover them all. But before I turn to the comments, there's one other thing that I think in the meantime, when everyone was talking, I was checking. So at the start of the workshop, people could do a word cloud. So the question.
Peter, we have lost Dominic. Sorry to interrupt, but I see we have lost Dominic. Oh, Dominic is back. Okay, great.
Right. So the question that everyone who is watching this on YouTube got was, what are the most required skills for official statistics? And people are maybe still entering terms here, so it may change while I'm talking. But so far, at least, the two most often mentioned skills are actually R and Python. And while we were talking about like what did you learn and what are skills you picked up, no one explicitly mentioned that. Of course, right? You said something about modeling and all these kind of things, so you have to do that in some software. So my first question is, for all of you, did you learn both R and Python in your program? So Sarah, did you?
In my case, this is one thing I wanted to also talk about, because in my program we used mainly SAS and SPSS, and less of Python and R. I only had 2 lessons about that, and that's one thing that I think that could be benefit more. Also for in my case, that I am working in a private company, and this kind of companies uses other statistical tools such as Python.
How is this for you, Dominic?
So we focus on R mostly at the University of Munich, but I also had a little Python course, and I also worked like one project in Python. But it's very important, so it's a baseline for modeling, and it's a baseline for programming, for data processing. Obviously, there's always a lot of programming in the beginning. If you get the data, you have to put it in the right way, and the modeling as well. So I primarily use R, but there's also Python involved in some ways, and less of SS and SPSS, but we had like a minor in the bachelor degree on SS and SPSS as well.
All right, thanks. Danilo, how is this with you?
While at the studies, we were very much focused on our program. We also learned the SQL, but I must say that the bigger focus was on R. We also used SPSS. Somehow years passes and SPSS is still in the game. We also use the eViews for time series analysis and for advanced data visualizations. But yeah, those are mainly the tools which were used at the studies. But at the jobs which I performed, it was usually sufficient to know SPSS and in a smaller amount R, in my personal experience while working at the UN. Of course, some I don't know, we would maybe describe them as minor programs, but Excel is all on a daily time basis used. But yeah, for some bigger statistical analysis, it's mostly R. Yeah.
Right. And Ines, what did you get R and Python?
Yes. Well, the NSAE emphasizes a lot on computing, so we discovered very different languages. I would say that we were a bit fluent in, I would say, 6 different languages, and I would say that the language we used the most was maybe R, but SAS too. So it's because the INSEE is actually trying to shift from SAS to R, so we had to be able to program both in SAS and R.
All right. So thanks. So there's a big variety, right, in the tools that you learned in the different programs. And I think we're in a situation where, depending on the job that you get, right, where you end up, there are many different tools that that you may learn to use. So just the skill of learning new software programs may be a very important skill in itself. All right, so I'll turn to some of the comments that we got on YouTube. I can't do them all at once, so I'll try to sort of group them a bit. So the first question was asked by Maja Drakic, and I will repeat the question. So the question is, how important, oh, here's the question. How useful was the internship as a learning experience during EMOS? So especially maybe if your internship was not linked to the job you're doing now, right? So of course, if you stayed on or something like that, then maybe it's hard to reflect, but especially if you're now maybe doing something different, I'm very interested to learn how useful was the internship for you. So can I do a quick round maybe here? And I'll start here with Ines.
So first, yes, very useful. It was a very useful experience for me. So what's very interesting in my situation was that I was meant to work for the INSEE. So I knew I would be working, and pretty much by the end of the master's degree, I knew I would be working as a national accountant. Yet my internship was at the Deutsche Bundesbank on secure multi-party computation, so a very different subject. Yet it was a very interesting experience because it enabled me both to have the research experience, because it was not statistic producing internship. It was to produce an article and to make research on pretty new subjects. And it also gave me an international experience, since I will be working in France for the French National Institute for Statistics. So it was, I would say, a full discovery experience, and it was very enriching.
Right. And Dominic, how was this for you?
It definitely provided some interesting insights, and provided insights about the structure of official statistics in Germany. So for me personally, I think I would have preferred a little more of Ines type of internship. But I learned a lot about the structures and about the processing of data at the place I was. And the focus was not that much on methodology and on research, but rather on data processing and gathering data and more standard procedures. But it's very interesting to see where official statistics is now. And it's very interesting to see that there are different branches. And so it provided a lot of insight, and I wouldn't want to miss that insight. So.
All right, thanks. Danilo, what's this with you?
Yes, well, very briefly, I think that if there weren't my EMOS studies, I wouldn't get my previous job at UNDP working on the project developed for the statistical office. And if I didn't gain that experience, I wouldn't have gotten this job, my current job, where I also work as a national consultant, but it's mainly statistical analysis. And internship at the EMOS program helped me a lot, because I did it at the statistical office of Montenegro, where I had the chance to choose the department of my preference, to gain insight into their daily work, to look at their technologies, methodologies, etc., and to use developed skills in order to test hypotheses related to the subject I was researching on during the internship. And the people I met there helped me develop these skills, so I knew that my studies were not in vain, because it showed how I can use them, that they are up to date and in fact needed. So internship also helped me create a network of statisticians, data scientists, and more broadly researchers who focus on different areas of this master program and develop understanding of it through practical experience. This network later on helped me deal with different problems I encountered while doing my own research or any other daily work-related tasks. This network is still developing as I am moving from project to project, because statistics somehow never gets out of the game. The more I deal with it, the more there is to be dealt with. So every data calls for analysis, and I guess every result calls for more data. So everybody's creating or using data, and you will always find yourself in the position of networking through statistical needs. So I guess internship helped me a lot as statistics connect me.
Right. Yeah, thanks. Sarah, how's this with you? Because
In my case, well, I'm working at the same company.
I think we're losing Sarah.
Oh, can you hear me?
I think you were gone for a little bit, but continue.
Okay, I can hear you. So my personal experience, the EMOS internship helped me, although it was in a private company, because I got a recommendation from a friend of mine that also studied the EMOS program in the first years, and that is also working in the company that I am now. So the internship in this company helped me a lot, and I would say it was really meaningful and really really positive because I got involved in a project related to statistics, and it was like kind of everything new information that I could help a lot with this project, thanks to the experience that I got from the program.
All right, thanks everyone. So I now want to turn to a slightly different topic. So I'm happy to hear that you're all quite positive and learned all these things. But let's focus for a minute on what can be improved. So from your own experiences. So this question is, no, I'll ask it as an open question, right? So in hindsight, if you now think back about the program that you took when you were a student, are there things that you now miss, right? That in retrospect you would have liked to have topics. Again, you can take a minute to think about this. So is there anyone who would like to go first here?
I can go first if you want.
Sure, yes.
So I can share my experience. I think overall the course met expectations, and I would take it another time if I had to choose. But if you ask me what I would have dropped from it, were some introductory subjects that we had during the first year related to introduction to statistics, that I already had or got that knowledge during my degree, and I would focus more on other languaging programs and other open source programs such as Python, as we already mentioned, because I think they are going to be really useful. They are going to be used in many companies, not only private, also public, and it gives you like more resources to face different problems that you can face, and having like the knowledge of different programs, not only focus on several, which was my case. I think that's one thing that would be great.
All right, thanks. And how is this with you, Ines? Because you stayed like in official statistics in a way. So, is there anything that now you miss in your job that you have now that you would have liked to have in EMOS?
I think it's very difficult for the field of official statistics, since it's so wide, so large. It's difficult to be prepared for each job, each position, each field. So I would say that even today, I don't use every method I learn, but I don't know if I change position, if I could use them all. I don't know. For example, I do not use sampling, but nowadays I could work in methodology. So I think it's very difficult to be able to be prepared for everything in official statistics. So like Sarah, I do believe that this master's degree met my needs. I do not have the same problem for computing, yet I would simply add the fact that for my school, the international dimension was something we had to push a bit. This is not normalized for now, so this is maybe something that I would have had to the master. So the possibility to go abroad for the studies, or to normalization of international internships, things like that.
Yeah, so we touched upon this issue, right, of going abroad. So you're maybe, as a group of students, I think perhaps not so representative in the sense that at least some of you like went abroad, right, for an internship or studies, and this is something that I think in the EMOS programs is not happening so much yet. Did it? This is a question in between. We'll turn to the others. So is this European aspect something that people feel would attract more people? Like, did you do EMOS because of the European in EMOS, or was it more of the official statistics in EMOS?
So I think for me it was both, and I had the pleasure of the study visit, like I mentioned before. But I think more opportunities like this, like internships maybe at Eurostat, or maybe even research projects or master thesis projects you can do as a student would be great. Like the connectivity, it's EMOS, Eurostat, so it's the whole EU.
Anyone else wants to take on this?
Well, I would say that for my case, it was more that this master's degree was very pertinent, since I'm a civil servant in official statistics. So I would say that it was more the official statistics rather than the European dimension that first attracted me.
All right. Shall we? Let's continue with the original question, right? So the original question was, what were you missing? So the internship and the international aspect is one thing I think that has been sort of iterated a number of times as an interesting avenue for future developments. But any other topics that were still missing? So Dominic, are there any things that you have been missing in your EMOS program in hindsight?
Not that much. There was a quote in the session before that was built on the old, and I fully agree with this. So if you take a look at an issue, there are always two ways to look at it. One way is how is it, and one way is how should it be. And most of the times, or some of the times, those overlap, and some of the times they don't. And it would be very interesting to look at the progress official statistics, in my opinion, is able to make the next few years with all those changes. And so I wouldn't say there's like one point I'm missing. Maybe we could redirect a little bit more in new methodology and in the data science direction. But that's not that much of a critique, because this progress is taking place, in my opinion, right now. It's just changing.
All right, thanks. And Danilo, how is this with you? Have you been missing anything?
Yeah, well, if you talk about the things I wish I would have had in EMOS program, that I would say it was more coding, actually, more quantitative skills development. Of course, we had a solid basis for this. We learned a fair amount of statistical tools, but it was not enough for every occasion. Some employers asked to dig deeper, and I cannot say that particularly my SQL knowledge was always in the line with the market needs. And also longer internship, or even 2 internships. I find the practical part most useful to engage in other businesses, institutions, etc., to see how they work, what they do, so I will know what I need to do. But if you talk about it, what would I possibly drop from the EMOS program? Then nothing, absolutely nothing. I think every subject of my EMOS studies was useful, so it is difficult to drop any part of it. If anything, I wish it provided me with more knowledge and more skills, not less. So only if I rephrase it, I could say that I would like to have had less conventional type of teaching, for example, through classrooms, as I prefer internships, practical experience, and collaborating with potential partners and employers.
Okay, so we are having 10 minutes till the finish of the session. So let me turn to plenty of comments that appear on our YouTube webpage. Some of them were already addressed by you in the meantime, directly or indirectly. So I will focus on only some of them. But if you have any additional questions, you, the audience, feel free to post them on YouTube. I find one question very interesting, and there is even a discussion going on in the YouTube window. How could EMOS be made more known for future master's students? How to best reach out to bachelor students? That's a question from, I think, one university, MSE UniP staff, so a joint question. But I don't want you to answer this question directly. However, indirectly, please, in 1 or 2 minutes, tell us, why did you have chosen the EMOS program? So what was the way you've learned about it and you decide, okay, I want to go there? If you can take a time machine and go back to your way of thinking. Maybe Dominic, I will start with you now.
Yeah, so I heard of it actually from a friend who was on an information platform who got to know. And so in Munich, it's like you can choose an EMOS course and afterwards commit yourself or not commit yourself. And I chose the course of the professor. I'm doing my PhD right now, so this is very convenient. And obviously, I enjoyed it, so I stayed. And afterwards, I stayed with it. And I think that's a good point. If you open up the EMOS program for just one course, maybe.
Yeah, so a kind of teaser. Yeah,
maybe a teaser. Afterwards you can commit.
Okay, great idea. Thank you, Sarah. What about you?
Well, in my case, as I mentioned before, I heard about the course because a friend of mine studied the program, and he was the one who told me about it. So I have never heard about it before, not in the university, and I did a research on the internet, and I got no information from it. So I think it would be good to give more visibility about this kind of program, that it exists, and also to talk about it at the universities, because there is a lot of people that don't know exactly what program they want to do. They know what they like, but they do not know which is the offer of the program. So I think it would have more joiners if the program has more visibility.
Okay, so more visibility. Danilo, from you, any advice and your experience?
Well, marketing, of course. Universities as well as Eurostat have to imply more direct contact with students, but also employed persons from various areas, private sectors, government bodies, international organizations. In Montenegro, I did not recognize that EMOS program targeted especially persons employed in international organizations, but it did persons from government bodies, especially those from official statistics. But you have to make people clear why is EMOS useful, so they can picture how can they develop their careers, not only through university websites, but through more forward way of communicating.
Okay, thank you. And Ines?
Well, actually, I first integrated the school, and then I heard about the EMOS program. So I discovered it from the perspective of a school that is actually delivering the diploma. So I think it's a bit particular, and I don't know if my decision would have been the same if I were simply at the university and heard about the EMOS program.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one last question, and that is a question from Pamela Lafferty in the end here. Do you think that the EMOS is struggling to meet the demands of both public and private institutions, and fulfilling the demands of one, it appears to affect the other? So yeah, that is a complex question, but I think the most important one is because you have different backgrounds and now you are in different jobs, do you think that EMOS is good both for public institutions and private institutions, so that it teaches you both for a private and public job, or is it focused more on official statistics and NSIs, or just what's your evaluation of the program? So what is the focus and whether the demands of institutions you are working right now are met? Ines, back to you.
I would say that the case of France is yet again very particular, since we are employed as civil servants. So our schooling is actually organized in coordination between the school and the National Institute for Statistics and Economic Studies. So I would say that we are entirely prepared for the public service. And even the EMOS program is made into the school with the same professors. So of course we keep the official statistic dimension. And I would say that I was absolutely not prepared for the private sector, but it was not the aim.
Yeah, not your issue. So that's on the one hand, and Sarah on another hand, from the private sector perspective.
In my case, I wouldn't say that the EMOS program in Spain is only focused on public institutions. You can choose between them. It's true that we see a lot of statistical tools that were used in public institutions, but in the lessons and in the courses we had, we faced real problems that we could find in any position, not only in the public sector.
Okay, thank you. Dominique, maybe now I'll turn to you, because Pamela suggested that there is a trade-off between meeting the demand of private and public institutions. Do you see that trade-off between those two, or you think, okay, from a perspective of a PhD student, I think that both of them are addressed and there is no trade-off? There is a complementarity of learning for the private sector and for the public sector.
So very funny. So trade-off was the first word I thought of saying. So it is definitely there is a trade-off. There is a trade-off, but it also goes on both demands. So there's a lot of subjects that can be used for both, for the private sector and the other sector. There's a methodology which is a little bit objective above both. If you think about regression or other methodology, which is important for both, but there is this trade-off. And if you focus on the public sector a lot, you lose maybe a little bit of focus on the private one, but it depends where you are in this trade-off. So I think you can, the way it is structured, at least in Munich, or as I think of also with the others, it's that you can go both directions, and I would always keep open both directions. So anybody who can study the EMOS program can also go in the private sector, and not only in the public sector. But for me, it was enriching to have also the public sector, not only the private sector, like in most other studies, I would say.
Okay, if I have you in focus, Dominic, there was one question from Enrico Farias. He asked you directly whether you expect to continue into academia. As I know the German system, I think the answer is yes, but please elaborate on that.
I'm not that certain right now. So
really?
I'm not that certain. So there are different paths. So there is the path of going through a PhD and after postdoc and then becoming directly professor. Or there's also a path going to the private sector, and afterwards maybe it's called Fachhochschule. There's a different you can go. And I think I'm still pondering. So I've been doing the PhD for 1.5 years, so I still have some time left. And I think there's the option of staying at the university directly, going this in-between path, or also maybe joining official statistics. There are very interesting options at Eurostat for research concerned options in official statistics as well. So I haven't made up my mind entirely yet. So I'm sorry, I can't answer this question or only with the academia way. It depends. So.
Okay, thank you. And now let's turn to Danilo. You're working in an international organization, so I think you need both the skills that are needed in the private sector and public sector. So what do you think? Are you prepared? Very good. I think yes from your former answers, but still, please elaborate on the question of Pamela about meeting the demands of private and public institutions and international organization maybe as well.
Well, basically, yes. But the previous question was, is EMOS struggling in this sense? Well, it's not easy, but I will say it does it successfully. Of course, when you go broader and broader with the contact of your study program, you risk ending up with loose knowledge and skills about many topics and tools, but it's not easy to pack it in 2 years, but it most surely provides you with a good basis to work in every sector of the labor market. In my case, it showed very helpful for government bodies and international organizations. But I also do not see any obstacles to using these tools in the private sector, as some of my colleagues from EMOS program work in private companies in business intelligence and real estate market analysis, for example. But in my case, I use the statistical tools and, more importantly, the knowledge about international methodologies and international statistical systems.
Okay, thank you, Danilo. So we need to finish, Peter.
Yeah, so we've run out of time, I'm afraid. We've passed the hour, so we need to close it right here, I'm afraid. So first of all, I want to thank Danilo, Dominic, Ines, and Sarah for your contributions and your views. As I kind of expected, we have a very diverse set of opinions and experiences, which always makes it difficult. But I think there are some key takeaways, right? So the topics that we talked about international development, about internships, about this issue of programming skills or more data science skills in general, I think are all very useful and are topics that I think we'll talk about more at this workshop, or actually we have talked about as well in the morning. Before I give over to Katerina to really close this session, I want to point out that after a short break, there is another session that's also focused on employability, but then from the employer's point of view. So from the other point of view, right? What are the kind of skills that are needed right now and into the future? So that for everyone who's watching this may also be a very interesting session. So thanks also to Adam for hosting, and I'll now give the floor to Katerina.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I think you said everything, everything that is important. So I would like, of course, to thank you, Peter and Adam, and of course our student. I think it was indeed very important for all of us that we are involved in the EMOS programs of our university to hear you. Thank you, really. And as Peter said, please stay with us for the next session, the roundtable. That will be about employability of EMOS students. So we're now having a little break. So the connection will still be on. So you can just leave it open, and we will restart at 11:30. Okay. So see you in some minutes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay, so welcome back to everybody. We are ready to start again with the program of our workshop. So now I will introduce the moderator of the roundtable on employability of EMOS graduates. That is Albrecht Wittmann. Albrecht is acting head of the Unit for Methodology and Innovation in Official Statistics at Eurostat, European Commission. The unit provides methodological support and training to Eurostat, European Commission, and the European Statistical System, organizes access to confidential data for research, takes initiatives in research in official statistics, and focuses on developing and implementing the concept of trusted smart statistics. He has more than 30 years experience working in official statistics. He holds a degree in physical geography by Van den Gothenburg University, Mainz, specialized in geographical information system and remote sensing. So Albrecht, before I give the floor to you, I would just like to launch a new pool. I will put the link in the chat, and the pool will be about what is the best asset of the official statistic to attract and retain talent. So Albrecht, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katerina. I would like to welcome you to our panel discussion about the employability of EMOS students. We saw then in the previous discussions the view of the EMOS students and what they liked, what they appreciated in the EMOS programs. Now we are turning the view around and looking at the needs of potential employers in the public sector for EMOS students. We have collected a distinct panel, and let me introduce you then the members of the panel. So we have, as panel members, we have Carola Fabi. She is a senior statistician working at FAO since 1999. There she is coordinating the data lab that was created at the end of 2019. The objective of the data lab is to modernize the statistical processes and promote also the use of non-official data, unstructured data, and data science method to fill the current data gaps that are there. She's leading a team on methodological innovation that developed a new corporate statistical working system, and she's responsible for the SDG indicator 12.3 on food losses. Carola holds a master's degree in economic statistics and a master's degree in agricultural economics. Welcome, Carola. Thank you for participating.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you, and thank you for inviting.
Then our next panel member is Markus Zwick. He is a head of section, I think currently is acting head of unit of the Institute for Research and Development in Official Statistics at the Federal Statistical Office in Germany. He's responsible for the research cooperation and the strategies. He's engaged in different national and European projects concerning the implementation of new digital data sources into official statistics. Markus has been working at DStatis, so the German Statistical Office, since 1996. From 2001 to 12, he developed and led the research data center of DStatis. From 2012 to 2016, he was responsible of a project called European Master in Official Statistics. I think that, so he is one of the, or the father of the European Master in Official Statistics project. At that time, he was a seconded national expert at Eurostat. Currently, he's working as a partner in the SNET or Web Intelligence Network and as a project coordinator for the SNET Smart Surveys. These are projects then initiated by Eurostat. He is an honorary professor for statistics at the Goethe University in Frankfurt and is editor-in-chief for AStA, Wirtschafts- and Sozialstatistisches Archiv, one of the both journals of the German Statistical Society. Welcome, Markus.
Albrecht, good morning, and good morning to everyone, and thanks for the invitation.
And the last panel member, but not least one, is Bruno Tissot. He is the head of statistics and research support at the Bank for International Settlements and the head of the Secretariat of the Irving Fisher Committee on Central Bank Statistics. He has been working at the BIS since 2001 as a senior economist and secretary to the Markets Committee of the central banks in the Monetary and Economic Department, and then as an advisor to the general manager and secretary to the BIS Executive Committee. Between 1994 and 2001, he worked at the French Ministry of Finance. He is currently head of the Statistics and Research Support. And he's a graduate of the École Polytechnique in Paris and of the French Statistical Office INSEE. Welcome, Bruno, to this panel and the discussion. So we've experienced already a discussion then in the morning, or two discussions then in the morning. I think then the settings will be more or less comparable. So I will ask some questions then to the panelists, but you will have also the audience then watching at on YouTube will have also the possibility of posing the questions then in the YouTube channel. So we've heard this morning about new requirements, changing jobs then, and new demands for skills that at statistical offices, and also the discussion about the differences in data science and statisticians. We've heard the view of the students who did an EMOS program and have a master in a European Master in Official Statistics. And now we are changing then to the requirements of employers concerning skills and competences of students. My first question in this round is that what are the most needed skills that statistical producers would like to see in their future recruits? Would you like to start, Carola, for that question?
All right, yes, I will start, and thank you. So, of course, I mean, what I'm bringing to the table is also the point of view of an international organization. The FAO has a statistical mandate, but we are not in charge of collecting the microdata of the surveys themselves. We support the countries in implementing their own surveys. Now, in terms of the statistical skills, well, the official statistics are going through transition. So the new recruits, the people that we are looking for, need to have some new skills to support the statistics office in this transition. And here we are talking about data science. We are talking about the use of big data for official statistics and the capacity to work on these data and to explore spurious correlations. The official statistics will come and are coming from a multitude of data sources, and the statistics offices are responsible for giving a quality label. So where yet they do not have the quality control of the basic data of these non-conventional alternative data sources. So knowledge of the sampling designs, all sampling frame issues are also becoming very important. The capacity, learning how to correct the data, how to cater for the under coverage, how to reweight the universe, to reweight the data so that it represents the universe. Not everybody's on the internet, not everybody's on the social networks. So some of the non-conventional data sources do not cover the whole population. Another very important aspect is how to link the various data sources, so integrating them and even going very deep into record linking. So we have a mix of very hard technical skills and more the overview of the sampling frame and the universe. Another important aspect that came up recently in a webinar organized by the United Nations with all the countries on the use of data science for official statistics are the legal aspects. So knowing and being able to grant the privacy, the confidentiality of some records, and the ownership of the records. So especially on the legal aspects, maybe there's also something that can come as part of curriculum on official statistics. That's not a hard skill, but that is part of this transition that the official statisticians have to be able to master, to harness, and that a curriculum on official statistics must provide the necessary tools and the necessary skills. I think that this is all for the moment. Thank you.
Marcus, what are your requirements, or what are the requirements of a National Statistical Office in this respect?
Yeah, thanks, Albrecht. We need a lot. We need a portfolio of skills. We need not one specialized part of skills. It is a frame. And yeah, what is our art? Our art is to build up the reality by numbers, and that is very abstract. And to make that real, yeah, we need different kinds of skills, depend to the field where someone is working then in our statistical offices. We need still the statistician, the survey methodologist who can do surveys. And this in combination with new digital techniques, with new digital data. We have currently a project called Smart Surveys, how we can combine traditional data collected as a survey with sensor data or other new kinds of data. That is something what we, where we are working on, and where we can, where we need new views coming from the universities. We need methodologists, data scientists, persons who are able to run algorithm and to write algorithm. We know that there are a lot of traces in sensor data, and how we can transform these traces into numbers, into statistics. That is something what we need as skill, and here we need a lot. We have really less from this kind of skills, but we have a lot of statistics where we can use this kind of skills. We need legal officer. Persons who understand the GDPR, the rules, and what this means for surveys. Especially in our SNET Smart Survey, we have seen that it is not enough to be a statistician, not enough to be a methodologist. We established in the second half of this project some task forces, especially for question based on the GDPR, on the General Data Protection Regulation. Here is really a need of sets of experience and skills when we develop new kind of data production. Administrative officer, management skills are also necessary, maybe not at the beginning, but also in the future. And that is something what newcomers should know, that we need not only methodologists, statisticians. When they go further in their career, some of them should then manage the project and be more on the administrative side of work. Overall knowledge view, overall means quality. That is our core business. To understand what quality is, not only how we can measure quality, the key idea, what it means to build up the reality by numbers, and the step coming from first definition, construction of variables and items, and then to go in the field and produce the data, and where the link is and what means then to produce data with a high quality. An overview about the statistical system should be important, and that is something what we answer with EMOS, because here we give in view how we are organized in the European statistical system, how we are organized in Germany, for example. It's a complex system. We are federal states, not alone in producing statistics. To have an understanding about that, ministries, central banks, and how we get the legal basis to do our statistic. We do all our statistics on law, but what is the process to get this law and to build then statistics. Communication, presentation skills are also necessary, not only to produce data, also to talk about the production process and to prevent that. Network builder, also a necessary skill to have a network, to get a network, to maintain networks. And yeah, that is what we hope to get. Often not get. That is one reason why we are engaged in EMOS, to go to the universities, to be their lecturers, to offer internships, to give students insights to this kind of skills we need in the official data production. Thanks.
Wide variety of skills that you cited that it is needed, which is also related strongly then to these new data sources. Now I'm coming to Bruno to ask him about his considerations for skills that are demanded by employers. Your mic is muted.
Okay, you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so first, I would like to thank you for inviting me. Perhaps it's not very well known by the students, but in the central banking community, statistics are becoming very important, and this has been going on for the last 20 years. So in many countries, central banks are in charge of a significant part of the data collection for the financial accounts in the SNA. And there is also a lot of new data sets because of the crisis that we had 10 years ago, very micro level data sets on loan, on securities, on trade repositories data, on derivatives, etc. So what can I add to what was already said? When I was hearing Marcus, I felt, you are looking for Spider-Man. You are looking for someone that is excellent in everything. And I agree. I agree with the list of things that you are looking for, the portfolio approach, also what Carola has said, IT issues, legal issues, etc. But I would like to make 3 points and be a little bit controversial. First, it's not so new that we require these skills. When I started 30 years ago as a statistician, I had to deal with very large data sets, which was a census. It was 40 million of observations. But the only issue is that the IT system were not the ones that we have today, and the speed doing the exercise was not so easy. So it took nights to launch a program. But we were already doing some kind of data analytics or principal component analysis that are relatively similar in principle to what we are doing now with machine learning exercise. So it's not so new. What we need is already, and it was said also, is very old skills. We should not forget this. So we need people able to code, for example, statistical exercise. We need to have a good understanding of the statistical methodology. I need personally to have people that understand what is public debt, what is GDP, what is CPI inflation. And this was also said by Marcus, we need to have people that communicate the data, because we need to have people that can explain the story behind the numbers. And training of official statisticians that has been going on for many years has been very successful and has been able to deliver this kind of profile. So it's true that today we are looking for very different types of skills, but it seems to me that the training of official statistician is still relevant to provide these things. There is perhaps one thing that is different compared to, again, sorry to refer to my case, but to what happened 20 or 30 years ago. When I went to INSEE, it was easy. You had to deal with official statistics. So you had the census, you had surveys. It was well-established data sets done by official statisticians, and you had no questions regarding the ethical issues posed by these data sets. And this has changed. So this is really something new. Statisticians that now have to work on the new data sets, they have to understand the implication, because these data sets are not always in line with the standards that govern the official statistics. So this is perhaps something that is completely new. Now, when you have to deal with this new data source, you have to be a bit cautious, and you have to be much more aware of the principle of official statistics than a young statistician had to do 20 years ago, because there was no issue. By definition, it was only official statistics, and it was in line with very high standards. So today, this has really changed. So again, I agree with everybody, a lot of very different skills. At the same time, we should not forget that we have good trainings of official statisticians, and this is very useful. And the only issue is how to deal with this new data universe that is not governed by the principles of official statistics. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for this. I would like to encourage as well then questions then from the audience to the panel. Markus, you wanted to?
Yeah, I would like to add a short comment to Bruno. Bruno, you are right, but we are not looking for Spider-Man or Spider-Woman. We know we need teams. And that is something what we have to learn and to change inside the statistical office. We are not ready to work in bigger teams. Often we are thinking in silos, and that have we to change, that we get the data scientist with a lot of different skills, with different data scientists with different skills, to bring them together in teams to produce statistic on the level what we need today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think this is also some experience that we are having at Eurostat, so that while of course you need a sound basis in statistics, then these new data sets are that are now should be integrated into official statistics need a new approach because they are not collected primarily for the purpose of statistics. And the issue is that we need to repurpose these data to be used in official statistics. And this then has important consequences then on the way statisticians work, and also have to outreach then to other communities, and also outreach to other expertise and skills. For example, using mobile network data, probably it's not bad then also to know something about the technicalities of this data, but there are a lot of those examples. So we have one question from Monica Partesi. There, the ideal official statistician appears to need to be skilled as a methodologist, as a programmer, a project manager, network and communicator. Then finding them in one person would be a lucky strike. How do you think your organization can bring all these skills together in view of responding now something came in. Okay, in view of responding of these higher user needs, I think that Markus has already then hinted. Then, in principle, we would need a teams player there. Carola, Bruno, do you want to add something to these aspects, or how do you tackle this issue in your offices?
Shall I go first?
Mm-hmm,
okay. Yes, in fact, I mean, of course, I perfectly agree. I mean, the only way is to have a team with people with different skills and also, in a way, different attitudes. Some people are natural communicators, others aren't, and so on. The way that we also try and solve it in the organization is that, for example, we partner with other divisions. So we partner with a division on communication, for example. We partner very much with the I division. Again, I mean, this is a difference between an international organization that has a mandate, in our case, on food and agriculture, and a statistics office whose core mandate is to produce statistics. So we consider partnering with the IT division, partnering with communication, partnering with some of the specialized units on natural resources, etc., as external partnerships. So that's how we attract also other skills inside, I mean, to fulfill the statistical mandate. Yeah, so that's basically how we try and increase the skill needs. Thank you.
How do you tackle the issue in?
Yeah, so I think just to summarize, I fully agree with what was said. So first, we try nevertheless to have Spider-Man. So it's good that people have a flavor. You cannot be good in everything, but have a flavor of all these various issues first. Second, as Marcus said, we need to have teams that are made of different types of people. But in our case, we are small institutions. Of course, we cannot have in all our statistical teams a legal expert, a communication expert, etc. So the third solution is, as Carola was saying, is partnership with others in the, for example, in the Bank for International Settlements on communication, on legal issues, etc. Perhaps one focus when you do this, when you focus on partnerships, is between, for us, what is really important is to make the link between the users, mainly the economists making use of the data we produce, the statisticians that produce the data, and the IT people that help us to do this. And this is where it's not always easy because of the silos that was mentioned by Marcus. This is where it's relatively difficult. For example, a technical issue for many central banks is whether we should have an IT function that is centralized or we should have a federated model where we have a bit of IT functions placed in the statistical units. And it depends. In the BIS, we have a federated model. It works well, but we have other organizations where. So it really depends on the culture of the organization, on the people also. But this is the key challenge for us: is the link between users, producer of statistics, and IT support.
Thank you for this answer. Well, before going to the audience for another question, I would like to ask especially Marcus, because he is from the, well, Destatis is part of the European statistical system. How can our statistical systems engage more in supporting traineeships and employing EMOS graduates? What do you think?
Yeah, one idea is to have a close contact to universities, to be also lecturer there. I think that is really important as an aim also for us as statistical officers to have direct contact to students, beginning best in bachelor programs, because then we can talk about EMOS and win students for then master programs. Yeah, training internships, it's a question of resources, not easy to solve sometimes. Here in Wiesbaden, we have an institute for research that is a little bit easier than to organize that. We have a lot of junior researchers who are in PhD programs. We have PhD programs, and then it is easier to establish internships, but it is not so easy to establish that in our departments, because they have really a small part of resources and doing things where the general director at the end expect products, and in this production processes it's not so easy to implement then internships. Therefore, that is lessons learned we did. It is a good place to have research on one place in the statistical offices, but often not every time possible, especially when you have decentralized statistical offices, and that is sometimes also the case in Germany, but also in other statistical offices. Not so easy to answer. It is an effort for the statistical offices to offer internships. It's not enough to have then a place. You need a person who support this process and to trainee then the students in the statistical offices, but it is a big gain for us when we do that, because that could be then our new junior researchers, newcomers, and therefore it is an important issue to do that for the statistical offices.
Okay, thank you, Markus, for that. Now I would like to turn again to the audience. So Francesca Schirippa Spagnoli asked about employability, what would help your organizations to better know graduates from EMOS, probably organizing career days. Bruno, would you like to answer or start with an answer to this question?
Yes, perhaps it could help. Well, we are a small institution at the BIS, so basically we rely a lot on people applying directly to our positions. What we try to do is what Markus has said also, is to have this kind of internship programs. So we have a small one dedicated for MA students. We also have something for more people doing a PhD. They can come on very specific projects. So yes, career days, why not? But this would be costly for us because, so in terms of staff resource. So I think accessing the website is really the issue, and perhaps you could have a portal where you put all the information together, especially all the various international organizations that are offering positions. I know in some countries they are doing this, and it's quite useful. So,
Thank you, Carola. Some consideration from your side?
Yes, thank you. So let's say that the first part of the answer is like Bruno said. In fact, I mean, maybe an open day would be a little bit difficult for us. At the same time, we receive quite a lot of applications. So the most efficient way is that the interested students get in contact with the organization. Now, the United Nations in general and the FAO in particular have got an internship and volunteer program. So there is a whole program for that, where students can apply online in a standardized way with their curriculum, their main areas of interest, and so forth. And in fact, now the pandemic has changed a little bit the matter, especially last year. Now we're getting used also to remote internships, but we do work with interns. We do get interns every year. In our division and in the other statistical units of the organization. So that would be the first entry point. The way to make it even more efficient is to have an umbrella or a framework agreement between the university, and actually here it's a network of universities, so it's even better, and the organization. And the network is important for the UN because we are a global organization, so we need to interact with the whole world, possibly. And so to have already a network and a group of countries respond more to the mandate of the organization, where one can think of even having a master thesis, developing a master thesis with us in an area that is interesting for the division or the organization, or even a research area over time, a research topic in collaboration with the university, with several students over time. These are all possibilities, but of course, then there is a bottleneck in terms of the size. I mean, there can't be 20, 30 such programs. There can be maybe 1 or 2, but it's part of a range of possibilities, of course, on a small scale. But in more general terms, certainly the internship and volunteer program is the point. Thank you.
Thank you. But okay, considering to make students more known to the employers, of course, we are organizing that the EMOS program at the European level. Of course, there could be, you said that your organizations, or no, not the UN, but probably the part of the organization is relatively small. Of course, there could also be some activities then initiated, coordinated at the European level to make then, or to bring then students then together with potential employers. That could be follow up as well in the future. I would like to come to another question that posted in the chat. Enrico Farias, he is asking how well the statistical producers, institutions are doing to attract the young generation, and what could be improved in this aspect. Some volunteer to start with an answer, a reply to that?
I could start, Albrecht.
Markus?
Yeah, it's a permanent question for us. How could we be attractive for a junior researcher? Because money could not be as a reason to come in a statistical offices. There are other private institutions who pay better than we at the statistical offices. Therefore, we need other incentives to be attractive. One incentive is to get really an inside view during the time at the universities with internships, with open door days and some of activities. Then one important issue for us as statistical office is to be open for, to make a compromise between career and family. We have a very flexible time management, meanwhile learned as lesson in the Corona time. We will have the decision that our staffs can work at home for 120 days a year. That is the idea where we discussed on base that we have a lot of trainee programs inside our statistical offices, especially for the newcomers. We have PhD programs. We have international contacts. Our staffs could go to conferences. And this is the frame what we offer, especially for a young person who are interested to make research. And also when we are in production units, research is everywhere. The quality question is everywhere because we have to change our processes permanent with the new digital data sources coming with the Internet of Things and so on. And for me, it's interesting. It would start again in a statistical office to make that open and present, that we really an attractive place for research and to ask interesting things about reality, economy, the economy, the social situation, and we describe that by number. And to do you see, I'm very happy still in this point, and to bring this also to the young person when they have the idea to come inside the statistical office and to support us by our tasks.
Thank you for this answer. Something to add from the other panelists, Bruno, Carola, related?
Bruno, you want to go first?
No, I think what is important is to stress that what Marcus said, the public good. So you are working for the public good, which is, I think, a key benefit of working for us. In terms of supply, we try nevertheless to provide money is perhaps an issue because we have two competitors in the private sector, but nevertheless we try to benchmark the salaries we offer, so we pay quite a lot of attention to at least be competitive too. I think career development is important, so there is a future after being a young statistician. You could evolve in the organization or outside of the organization based on what you have learned. So we try to have this kind of turnover, so you don't come for being 40 years in the same position doing the same kind of work. And I think, at least for the BIS, what I would say to the people is that you have the opportunity to do something that can be useful for public good. So the policy aspect. So you are providing statistics that then are used by policymakers to do something. And this is something that, of course, you cannot have in the private sector. And this is quite an important aspect of our jobs.
Okay, thank you. Good. With this, I would like to go to a next question then in the audience. Well, it's about then do you believe that by Maja Drakic, do you believe that EMOS program could be more attractive for students and employers if it focuses more on R, programming, Python, SPSS, so these coding skills, as these skills are very popular and in principle they could improve employability within the public, but also within the private sector. So,
should I go?
Well, yes, please, Carola.
Actually, that's a good point. I have to say that right now, in all our vacancy announcement, we request programming skills. R and Python are our, let's say, default programming languages. Of course, SPS is welcome, but it's mainly R and Python. But definitely, this is part of the new set of skills. It's very important that the statistician be able to master his own tools and to develop and test his own methodologies, because the methodological aspect is increasingly important because of the need to control these new data sources. So yes, indeed, a stronger IT literacy and programming skills are part of the set. Thank you.
Nodding then from the others, Marcus, please.
From my point of view, coding skills are necessary, and we have to train that, especially starting with that at the universities, and therefore we could do more. What I miss still are so-called campus files. We developed that here in our research data center, special anonymized microdata for training purpose, and to offer that open on the web, that you can download that. A wonderful idea was 5 years ago, the sandbox from the UNECE, to have there a lot of new digital data sources, mobile phone data and satellite data and other. And what we have to trainee at the universities, also inside the NSIs, is to combine these both data sources, traditional and non-traditional data. And therefore, we have to make it open for the students, for the university, and to offer here more. And I could, I think we can do here more, but also here we need then resources and investment to produce that, to have a place where we can bring it on a kind of platform, and to discuss that also with private enterprises like mobile phone enterprises, to also to offer mobile phone data for this purpose. And I could imagine that they are interested in this kind of ideas, because not all EMOS students will come in the statistical offices, and also private data producers are interested to have well-trained newcomers with understanding what official statistic is, what quality is, and I could imagine that they are interested also to come a little bit more in this education path by offering their data, so that we can use that in combination with our data and to trainee then coding skills.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to come to a yes. Bruno, you wanted to...
Perhaps I could add a few points. One, so yes, we need to have people working on very large data sets. For us, it's not so much the data that were mentioned by Marcus, it's more the financial, what we call financial big data. So very large data sets that are collected at the level of financial institutions, for example, like loan statistics, security statistics, etc. In terms of programming skills, I agree with Carola. There is a trend to have a request, and we try to have people being knowledgeable in these new tools like R or Python. But nevertheless, what is really important is to have good programming skills, not so much to have a good understanding of specific programming tools. Because at the end of the day, at least for us in the BIS, we cannot use all the software available. So we need to have a choice, especially because we need to have backups, we need to have a library of programs, etc. So, for example, we work on something that is a native MATLAB environment. So everybody that is coming to the BIS has to learn this specific MATLAB for the BIS, because there is a gain of having the same tool for everybody. So fully agree, these new skills are very important. At the same time, it's not the end of the world if you don't have it. What is really needed is that you have the potential to learn a new language, because as I said, in the case of the BIS, you would be expected to learn something that is not available in the marketplace, which is our programming language.
Thank you for this consideration. I think this applies to quite a lot of institutions, because there is a choice for corporate tools then, for example, and there is not always then the offer then there, and it requires then an attitude of having a basis, and then being able then to develop from this basis, and also adopt new tools then, for example, adopt new skills in this regard. And I think also considering currently the times that we are living in, so with the pandemic accelerated quite a lot of changes then there, and I think that pandemic was one of the occasions where the learning curves were very steep in all institutions, and well, it requires a certain type of an attitude as well then to adopt then to these changes, and especially with new data sources. I think then inclusion of new data sources, we have much more changes that we have been used to in the past. Good, thank you for that. And with this, I would like to come to some new questions then from the audience. It's about the role of statisticians. So Francesco Schierpa-Spagnoli asked about the role of statisticians, NSIs, European statistics, in the wider context of the public sector and in the data ecosystem. So what can be done in promoting collaboration, exchanges with other national EU institutes, national European parliaments, then, for example. And the last question is, what about data stewardship? Is this something to be included into EMOS as an aspect? Some ideas related to these questions?
Some more an idea than a real answer, because the questions are very wide. I mean, it's true to some extent that the role of the statisticians is changing, but like Bruno was saying at the beginning, in the end, it's the word is changing, but the role is the same. So, I mean, what really makes the difference between official statistician and someone else who produces information? I think that it's really the quality label. And and for example, and that can also give, in a way, a kick to the profession. It's really to strive to produce objective data in a world of fake news, to stick to the facts, to be able to synthesize what is happening, and to try and give the best possible scenario and the reliable one, the one that you can use as a reference for assessing a topic. In terms really of the role. Now, in terms of collaborations and exchanges, there are already quite many, actually. And statistics are close to policy making. There is no statistics per se. You're serving a purpose, you are answering a question, you're supporting a policy or a new problem. Actually, this comes closer to Lorenzo Scalzitti's question just above, and also to what Bruno was saying. One of the interesting things in this work is to be close to policy making and close to the emerging issues and being able to and formulating the answers. So this is the role, I think. And I stop here because, like I say, it's very wide and one would like to start talking. So I leave the floor to the others.
Thank you. Markus, you wanted to intervene as well?
Thanks. Yeah, I can fully agree to that what Corolla mentioned, quality and quality label. That is our core business, and that hasn't changed. And that was the core business for official statistics 1,000 years ago, and that will be the core in 1,000 years. Society needs information to make decision, and this information have to be on a high quality. And therefore, I really can agree to that what Corolla said. One point more is what you asked, Albrecht, data stewardship. That means that we not have in view to the quality by our own data, also on other data. And that was something what we learned in the pandemic. There were a lot of data on the market, a lot of information, but with really a different content of quality, and no one could really say at the beginning, this information is right, this information is wrong. And that is my view, and I believe that we as statistical officers have to further develop to the data authority, not only on the statistical authority, also to see other data, and maybe also a kind of label to say this data are produced like the products by official statistic based on the code of practice. That could be a step in the right direction from my point of view.
Thank you. Bruno, do you want to add?
Yeah, well, fully agree with what was said, but I think I would like to emphasize official statisticians should be the custodians of reference information for the society. And we have principles, we have long histories, decades of experience. The issue now is that we have changed the way we use statistics. Before, we had a policy question or a society question, and then we were conducting a survey to get the data to answer the question. Now we are faced with something opposite. We have the data for mobile phones, etc., and we want to answer a question. So this is where there is a difficulty, because, as was said by Marcus, we are not completely sure about the quality, the methodology, the documentation of the data, and we are not completely sure of the reliable accuracy of the data. A good example is that people have the tendency, especially when they are not statisticians, they think, oh, you collect Google search data, so you have millions of observations, so by definition, it's accurate, compared to a small survey of 1,000 or 2,000 of people do in the traditional way. And this is not true. The bias can be huge. So if you want to, you can have a survey that competes with very huge data sets covering, I don't know, 50% of the population, because these data sets can be biased. So just to summarize, official statisticians, I think, are less and less data producers. They continue to be data producers, but relatively they are less the only ones. So there are other data producers, but the official statisticians, they need to be what I would call data curators or custodians of the reference quality of the information. I think the principles, the guidelines that were mentioned by Marcus is the way to go. How to promote the good practices in the statistical world, including non-official statistics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you for this contribution. Well, I'm a bit hesitating. We are approaching the end of our session, but we have we have a lunch break then afterwards. So probably we could also go 5 minutes beyond that. Katarina,
yeah,
what do you think?
If you want, I can show the results of the poll that I launched. So just to conclude, I will try to show you right now. So we actually, let me see if I can find it here. Okay, so we asked, let me see. Okay, so we ask, what is the best asset of the official statistics to attract and retain talent? And you see, this is the results. So some people say working from public goods, data democracy. I think that were the most frequencies, okay? And actually, otherwise, I have also to show the previous one. That's the one on that we launched during the student session, that I think is also connected to what you said, and that was about.
You're muted, Katerina.
What? Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And this was about what are the most required skills for official statistics. And as Peter already mentioned during the first question, the previous question, so you see many, I would say, programming tools like R, Python programming, big data analytics, and survey methodology were the most, I would say, quoted. So that's maybe add something to close your session. I don't know if you want to add something. Otherwise, of course, we are also approaching time for lunch.
Yes. Thank you. Well, we had still this one question by Lorenzo, but I think that it's a very general question, putting in principle or going to the basis of the current system that we have, the current system of indicators. I think that also, well, introducing new data sources also then provides a possibility for reflecting about the system as such. However, I'm a bit hesitating because this is not really touching the topic that we have there, and of course it can lead to wide discussions on do we measure really the right thing, and what about then in bringing then innovativeness, innovation, creativity into the offices. So I think that it is, of course, it's necessary to bring new thoughts into into the current employment, because there is a need for innovation, and also these new data sources give a possibility for rethinking of what we are doing. However, I would see this as a kind of a separate topic of discussion there. So with this, I would like then to thank the panelists then, so Carola, Bruno and Markus, for their time and for their answers. And I hope that also in the audience then it was useful for you to have a bit more insight than how statisticians that work in offices in the public sector then think and about EMOS, about the these new paradigm shift, the innovation that is coming in, and how they would see the future then also in official statistics. And I think that this also was very useful, then the contributions by the audience about the main assets then, for example, working in the public sector, and so working for the public good. I think that there is also another dimension than simply what is nowadays stated, that the inherent disadvantage of the public sector is that they cannot pay as much as the private sector. But I think that, well, it is also my belief, of course, that there is something else than payment, then also working in principle for the public good. Also, we have this stressing of the ethical values that are there, and which is especially important then with these new data sources, and also the ethical use of these data. I think this is also a very, very important aspect, and also the relationships with then the stakeholders, so with the society, with the economy, and with politicians, to communicate the value of official statistics, I think is very important in this respect. And with this, I would like to close then the session, to thank you for the participation. Thank you for the organization, and also thank you to the audience for the rich contributions.
Thank you. I also thank you, Albrecht, for leading the session. And again, thanks to Bruno, Carola, and Markus for their contribution. So now, yes, we have the lunch break. We will start again at 2. Okay, with the closing session will be 1 hour. We have a plenary speaker. So I will put in the chat again the link to the program, where you will find the link to the second part, because now, since we have a long break, we are going to close the live connection, and you will find in the program the direct link to the second part. We have to use it too. Okay, so thank you again to everybody. Thank you for joining, and I'll see you later. Bye.
See you.